in God's army, and we have to engage in the battle, because in this war, passivity isn't really an option. Like, we're either fighting with God or we're not. Like, we can't really be passive about it. And last week we talked about how the last 3 chapters, 10, 11, 12, is all one vision. And it gets broken up into these different chapters because there's different things to focus on in this vision. And so the messenger comes to Daniel, and he's the one that tells him, I was trying to come to you. We saw the picture of spiritual warfare that was happening there. And then he tells him that he's there to encourage him and to strengthen him. And then today we go into the second part of this vision, where we're going to get a lot more detail about what is to come for Daniel and the people of Israel. And this is the next portion that there's a lot that it says here. And, for us, like for Daniel, it's future. For us, a lot of this stuff already happened, but there's still some correlation to things that we get to see, even though this is in our past, that can still resonate today. And we can unpack what all these different things mean in a different setting, but there's a lot just going on here. So what we'll do this morning is just want to point out a couple things that we can learn from what even prophecy here, but what has kind of already taken place. So to get us ready, I want to start us off by reading the first 4 verses of chapter 11. It says, in the first year of Darius the Mede, I arose to be an encouragement and protection for him. And now I will tell you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings are going to arise in Persia. Then a 4th will gain far more riches than all of them. As soon as he becomes strong through his riches, he will arouse the whole empire against the realm of Greece. And a mighty king will arise, and he will rule with great authority and do as he pleases. But as soon as he has risen, his kingdom will be broken up and parceled out toward the 4 points of the compass, though not on his own descendants, nor according to his authority, which he wielded. For his sovereignty will be uprooted and given to others besides them. And so the reason why I say I want to start off with this, because we see like this is planned out, like this is the things that are going to happen step by step. And this is pretty much chapter 11. It's just giving us step by step of the different things that are going to happen, different things that are coming. And through this chapter, even though specific names aren't given, when we look at what is written in light, like for us in light of history, we can see that these are details, like we read there about this great king, great guy from Greece and stuff. We see that these are details about Alexander the Great. There's details about Cleopatra, Antiochus, I always say his name wrong, Antiochus Epiphanes. And we see like the Maccabees. I know I have a hard time. You can make fun of me. That's fine. Yeah, thank you, sir. But then you have like the Maccabees, which, if you read, if you grew up with a tradition, Episcopalian, whatever, that has the Apocrypha, the Maccabees, stuff that happened in there. We see that prophesied about here in chapter 11. And the rise of Roman rule, like everything just leading up essentially to the return of Christ. Like we have all this information, even though, again, not specifics, it's just this is what's going to happen. It's continuing to come. And to me, it's amazing to see these details because it's showing, once again, God's omnipotence. It's showing his power. It's showing his sovereignty over everything that happens. It shows that no matter what happens, God will have the last say because he's the one who's in control. And to me, this should bring us a lot of comfort because even though we may get surprised by things, even though things may come up and we're like, oh man, I can't believe this happened or whatever, this means nothing is a surprise to God. God knows everything that's going to happen. Even before something happens, God has actually already worked out the solution for that. And I think that should bring us a lot of encouragement and then some comfort to know that God already has that plan. And this is why there's a saying that I like to say, where it's like us humans, like we're playing checkers while God is playing chess. Now, I've said this before, and sometimes people are like, what in the world are you talking about? So if that's lost on you, what I mean is like we look at the game of checkers. It's really this play-by-play game, right? Someone just moves and then you react. Someone moves and then you react. Like that's really what it is. It's just movement and reaction. There's a little bit of strategy, but there's not a whole lot. So you just kind of react to what's happening. You just make the best move possible. But when you look at chess requires a lot more forethought. Like when you're playing chess, if you're a chess player, you got to play 4 or 5 moves ahead. That means the move you're moving now is going to affect 4 or 5 moves down the road. Now, if you're someone who's really good at chess or just a genius, you'll probably work at 8, 9, 10, whatever moves ahead. And what ends up happening is if you're able to play that way, you can make movements, you can put pawns, you can put bishops and knights out that your opponent will take out. And your opponent might feel, oh man, this is great. I'm taking out their pieces. I'm forwarding. Man, I am about to win. Like this is a good direction. And then because you plan so far ahead, you go, checkmate. And you're like, what in the world? How did that happen? I thought I was winning. I thought I was ahead. But this is why I say God is the one playing chess, because God knows all the moves. God is 20 moves ahead. He knows what is happening. He knows what is coming. And even though we look at what happens in our lives, like God is proving even in this chapter that that's how he plays. That's how he thinks. This entire chapter is about every move of every empire that is to come. Up and through the Roman rule, through Christ. Like this is about everything that is coming. He already has that. So this is where it's like, this is where God's already working ahead. And it's at this point in the chapter that I want to focus on kind of in the middle of the chapter, because we're seeing everything that God is doing. But then there's this part in here where he's saying like, hey, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. It's like, now this is going to happen, and here's how it's going to affect God's people. And this is the part that I want us to focus in on, because this is where I think we can get a little bit more application for us today. And the part we're coming up, he's talking about there's these two different kings. One's in the north, one's in the south. And these two kings, they're meeting together at the same table. And they're coming together and they're meeting, and really they're being two-faced. They're being nice to each other. They're being cordial. They're talking about their kingdoms. But what's really happening is they're really plotting behind closed doors how they're going to take over the other kingdom. And so they have this evil plan to get this advantage over each other. So again, they're being nice in person, but they're plotting. And this is where we're going to pick up in verse 27. Where it says, as for both kings, their hearts will be intent on evil, and they will speak lies to each other at the same table, but it will not succeed, for the end is still to come at the appointed time. Then he will return to his land with much plunder, but his heart will be set against the holy covenant, and he will take action and then return to his own land. And we see that both these kings, like their hearts are intent on evil. Their intent on evil. They're just looking for their own benefit. They're trying to expand their kingdom. So both of them, they're just evil kings. They've sold out to the evil forces. And because of the evil in their heart, this is what they want to do. So this portion really focuses in on the northern king and what he ends up doing. Again, he's being two-faced, and then in his plan, he actually gets away with it. He gets away with whatever his master plan is, and he brings home, as it says, a great plunder. He was able to steal a lot from this southern king. And then what ends up happening is he comes back, and maybe in a moment of pride or something, like we're not getting those specifics, but it says that his heart, because it's evil, now is set against the holy covenant. It is now set against God's people. It's set against everything that God stands for. For whatever reason, now he has it out for them. And it says he will take action against them. And one thing I want to bring up is like when we look at this, like evil has a grudge against God's people. It does. Probably because the guy in charge, Satan, has a grudge against God himself. So his forces, like anything related to God, there's this big grudge that he's attacking the things of God. This is why we can't just act like we're on the right side of this war and that evil doesn't have it out for us. Because like we talked about last week, we got to be ready to fight against these evil forces. Because what we see here is that the hearts of these kings and these governments, whatever, that they're evil and they're evil in the heart, goes against God, goes against his covenant and everything he stands for, and against his people. And this is where we need to start thinking a little bit more like a chess player. We got to start playing chess here. Start understanding the strategies of evil and having a plan to counter their moves. See, we know they have it out for us. We know that they're coming for us. We know that they're coming for our beliefs and our morals and our families, like anything else that makes them feel guilty about the way they're living. We know they're coming for us. And if we look at the scriptures, we see the tactics, the same tactics over and over and over. Pretty much the stuff they do, there's really nothing new. So they want to remove any kind of accountability or responsibility from their decisions and actions. So this is why they want to do things like try to silence us, gaslight us, or indoctrinate us into submission. Evil is always taking action. Always. And to think that it's not would be a mistake, but it is. And listen to this as we continue. Verse 29. At the appointed time, he will return and come into the south, but this last time it will not turn out the way it did before. For ships of Kittim will come against him. Therefore, he will be disheartened and will return and become enraged at the holy covenant and take action. So he will come back and show regard for those who forsake the holy covenant. So this king, he's so full of himself. Worked the first time, why not run it back? Is his thought process. So he gets down there, but this time he fails. And he's going to be so mad that he fails, so upset. It's not going to be his fault. It's going to be God's people. It's their fault. He's going to blame them for his failure. Because instead of taking responsibility, he says, no, hey, I'm so great. It worked the first time. My plan is flawless. It had to be something else, and it had to be the people of God who he was reigning over. It must have been their fault. So that's why he will be enraged at them. And as he said again, he will take action. And the way he's taken action is by showing favor to those who forsake or reject the Holy Covenant or God and his commandments. This is the action he's going to start to take. He's going to ignore them and show favor to everyone who is also against God. Now, this is a portion I think we can relate to, because when we see this, he will show regard, meaning he will show favoritism towards those who aren't the people of God. How will this happen? Well, as a king, he can give things to people that they desire. He can bestow upon them great gifts. He can lift them up. And to those people he doesn't want, he can withhold things. He can destroy the things they have. He can take things from other people. He can send his armies out and make their lives miserable if he doesn't like certain people. So as the king with authority, he can make people's lives amazing or miserable. And what I'm about to say next, I want us to kind of really digest. Because it's something that I've said before in different settings. I may have said it here at this church. I don't know. I can't remember. But I've said it before. And I think people don't really understand it. And I think it's because a lot of our American context of church and scripture, like our worldview kind of changes this idea. And I think it's clouded our minds a little bit. And so, but I want us to truly, again, digest and understand what I'm about to say. All right, good. We've had the awkward silence. Now everyone's there. Evil forces can give good things. Evil forces can give good things. See, we always look at evil as only bad things. Only evil is what takes things away. Only evil is what causes people harm or even have people killed, which is true. Evil does do these things. Evil forces will do these things. But we must understand that they can also give things that we deem are good. I mean, listen to this. This is where we come from. This is from the temptation of Jesus, Matthew chapter 4, verse 8. Again, the devil took him to a high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, all these things I will give you if you fall down and worship me. See, Satan is the prince of this world. He can give good things of this world, the material possessions, the money, the power. Like these are under his authority to an extent. Like there are things that he can do to tempt us. And see, and these things can be easy for us to be tempted by, because here in America we do this thing, especially as Christians. We do this thing where we pray for nicer houses, nicer cars, higher paying jobs. Maybe not necessarily because we need it, but because we believe that it will make our lives more comfortable. So we expect God to provide these things because we say we love him, we attend church, we give, we serve when we can. So of course, God will give us these things if I pray for him, because it's going to make my life easier. And if my life is made easier, then God, I will have more time for you. Come on, God, quid pro quo here. You take care of this for me so I don't have to worry about that. Then I can have more time for you. But God, if you can't provide these things, I don't have time for you. I don't have time to serve. I can't go to church all the time. Man, money's tight. I can't give. And so this is what we do. And this is the thing about Satan's temptation, is when he's offering this wealth and this power, he's really this is what we're looking at. Is Jesus willing to worship Satan in order to gain this wealth and power? Is he willing to bow down to what he has for this? Now, there's just two observations that I have here in this conversation. And I don't know, maybe Ohana will grow to 10 people next week. I guess we'll find out. But the first thing is, the American church worships comfort. The second thing is, the American church has been willing to worship Satan to obtain comfort. These are two things that I have noticed over the years. And the reason why I say this is because just look how the American church has changed the gospel for the sake of comfort. The American church has created a man-centered gospel that says it's all about us. It's all about you. The gospel is all about you. And this is why we love attending churches that make us feel all warm and fuzzy throughout worship. Things that, like when we come in, it was like, oh man, like I don't want to go to that church because that worship doesn't do anything for me. As if worship is us, like we're worshiping ourselves. But this is why we also love to accumulate groups of pastors online or whatever that make us feel cozy about our lives, even though sin is reigning in our lives. And this is why we'll listen to podcasts or read devotions that only encourage us and make us feel that feeling, that we like to have, those Holy Spirit tingles, as I call them. Oh, this just makes me feel, so great. Oh, yeah, feels good. We love to accumulate these things just to have it, just to encourage us, because we love to be comforted. And this is what happens when we are willing to worship Satan to gain the comforts of life. We change the gospel message. Because if we change the gospel and we lead people down a path to where we make them think they're Christians, but they're on the broad road that leads to destruction, we're following Satan's plan, not God's. Because we can't do that. And so we end up having this gospel message that is very secular and humanistic gospel that says it's all about us, and we don't bat an eye because we get what we want. I mean, just listen to how Satan puts this. The devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. Like, understand that temptation. He puts it up there and he's like, listen, I have all this authority. Look at all these amazing things. Look at all their glory. Meaning, look at all their wealth. Look at all their power. Man, that's all under me. I can give this to you if you just bow down and worship. I mean, imagine, if you will, Satan taking us to the top of Mount Everest. Now, don't worry. The heat coming off of his body will keep us warm. All nice and comfy. We'll be able to breathe comfortably. It's a nice day. Let's just say you can see clearly from the summit. And then Satan says to you, hey, do you see all this? Look at that. Look at just the piles of money the world has. And look at all these different nations. Heck, your nation included, America. Man, they bow to me. They listen to me like, hey, you want to be the one in charge of all this? I'll give it all to you. All the money, all the power. All these nations will now bow to you. All you have to do is switch your allegiance to me. Just switch sides. And you'll be second in command to the entire world, second only to me. Now, you may be thinking, everything that'll never happen. Everest will never be that comfy. But the thing is, Satan can make things comfy and lull us into making bad decisions. Because the reason why it works is because we're made to worship. We were made to worship. Specifically, we were made to worship God. But because sin has entered the world, now we have the temptation to worship other things instead of God. And whatever we worship, those are the things that we want. Those are the things that we chase after. So we can either worship God or we worship Satan. It's an either or thing. And I know sometimes people think like worshiping Satan, isn't that like rituals? No, that we can be bowing down to Satan without all that stuff. We can be worshiping, following in line with him. He can be our commander because we think he can give us what we want. And that's what he does. That's why it's so hard. That's why sin is so difficult, because Satan is offering the things we want. So the question has to be asked, what do we want? There's this book here. I want to read a little bit from you. This book is when I was like doing my dissertation thing, whatever, for the master's program. And I used this book because I was really talking about this whole idea of how the American dream has affected the American church. And this is what he says here. He says, What do you want? That's the question. It is the first, last, and most fundamental question of Christian discipleship. In the Gospel of John, it is the first question Jesus poses to those who would follow him. When two would-be disciples who are caught up in John the Baptist's enthusiasm begin to follow, Jesus wheels around on them and pointedly asks, what do you want? In John 1:38. Some translations say, what do you seek? Same thing. It's the question that's buried under almost every other question Jesus asked. Will you come and follow me? Is another version of what do you want? Is the fundamental question Jesus asked of his errant disciple Peter, do you love me? Jesus doesn't encounter Matthew and John or you or me and ask, what do you know? He doesn't even ask, what do you believe? He asks, what do you want? This is the most incisive, piercing question Jesus can ask of us precisely because we are what we want. Our wants and longings and desires are at the core of our identity, the wellspring from which our actions and behavior flow. Our wants reverberate from our heart, the epicenter of the human person. Thus, Scripture counsels, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:23. Again, like what do we want? What do we long for? What do we desire most? Is it wealth? Is it climbing the ladder and getting more power in our companies? Is it family? Is it friends? Is it experiences, vacations, seeking human approval and praise? Like, do we really need people to tell us how awesome we are? Is it justice? Is it vindication? Is it fame? Like, what is it? What do we want? What do we love so bad that if Satan was to put in front of us and offer to us that we would fall down and worship him to obtain it? Well, Efren, I wouldn't do that for nothing. There's no way. I'm switching allegiances. Man, and that's so easy to say here in this room. But if that's the case, if there's no way to do that, then why do we struggle to pray? Why do we struggle with reading God's words on a consistent basis? Why do we skip an opportunity to give honor and glory and worship the God Almighty on the Sundays that follow? Oh, this is just such a hard week and I'm just so tired. I guess I just can't go. If we want him so bad, then why are those things a struggle? I would say probably because we don't actually want God. Again, Proverbs 4:20. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life. Listen, what we do, what we chase, what we desire, what we long for, all comes from our heart. And what we truly want is shown through our actions and efforts, sacrifices, speech. Like everything comes from here. So if we take a hard look in the mirror, I think we can all see that there are areas in our life that we don't really want God to be in. And I say this as a man who has struggled with this question, what do I really want, my entire life? And I continue to struggle with it today. Because there are days, I will tell you, there are days, yes, all I want is God. And I feel like I'm walking in step with him and things are great. And I'm praying to him the entire day. I'm in the Word, not just preparing for a sermon, but on my own because I just want to learn more. I want to see what else God has to say. And I'm just talking about him. I'm excited. I'm just like, man, this is just so great. And there are so many days I'm just like, God, this is amazing. And I love God. God, you're all I want. Please guide me. Please show me where it is you want me to go. But I still have weaknesses. And what stinks is Satan sees those weaknesses. And a big weakness is my desire, my want to make sure that my wife and kids have everything they need, and not just need, everything they want. I want to give them everything. And if times get tough, when financially things are tough and I can't give them that, my pride starts to rise up. Like, well, I should be able to give them what they want. I should be able to do this. I'm the man. I'm the man of this house. I should be able to make sure that all my girls have everything they need and they want. They shouldn't lack for anything. I should be the one to be able to do this. And then if I can't do that, my pride / a little bit of anger at myself now leads me down a road of depression to where I am now depressed for a few days, a week, 2. I don't know. It just depends. I am now depressed. And I am just sitting here and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I suck. I can't do this. I suck. And it's in that moment is when Satan shows up in that weakness The same way he showed up to Jesus in his weakened state when he was fasting and starving and exhausted and tired. It is in that weakness that Satan shows up and he's like, hey, yo, E, you're struggling, right? You want to do more for your family, right? Then why do you keep up with this Ohana nonsense? Why do you continue to do this? Listen, man, you got connections. You can just quit the Ohana stuff, go and get a new job. You can do that. And there's a team. Yeah, you know what? I'll give it to you. You built a team. They can take care of it. They do great at what they do. Really, you wouldn't even be missed. You're not even that good of a leader anyways, man. Just don't worry about it. Then you can have this great job that pays well, and your family will be taken care of. And actually, I got a couple jobs right here. Like, remember these? These people say you can just have that. And then you never have to worry again. So just stop wrestling with this, man. Like, what are you doing? Is this really what you want? Do something different. And see, Satan's able to get in there in my weakness because I don't really want God. What I'm seeking for is financial stability for me and my family. So Satan tries to show up and tries to get me to bow down to him in exchange for that stability for my family, because Satan also knows I want the American dream just like everybody else. I want that for me and my family. But I think myself and all of us can't forget the words Jesus said right after that. Even though he is offering everything we could want, Jesus says in verse 10, Matthew chapter 4, then Jesus said to him, go, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God and serve him only. See, I do what I do for a reason, and one reason only, because I worship the Lord my God and serve him only. This is why I keep doing this. And yes, that is the desire, the longing of what I want. That desire has to reign supreme. Yes, we will be weak at times. Yes, we will struggle. And Satan, without fail, will show up in those moments of weakness. But we must remember that whatever Satan has to offer in exchange for worshiping him, we must remember it's not worth it. That we will worship the Lord our God and serve him only. That is what we need to remember. And I know it gets hard. I know it gets difficult. It's like, man, but all these things happen. And here's what helps me remember this. One, either Katie's like, wake up, you big dummy. You've already been through this. You know what you're supposed to do. Or God smacks me in the face and he's like, hey, who's your identity in? I'm a child of God. My identity isn't in what I do or the fact that I'm a husband or a father. No, like first and foremost, I am a child of God. What I do is pastor and teach. Why I do it is for the honor and glory of God and to expand the territories of his kingdom. That is who I am. That is what I do, and that is why I do it. And knowing that will help me be a good husband and father. And these other things that I do desire to do. If I keep those things first, worship God and serve him only, everything else will be taken care of. And that'll help me trust God that he will provide for my family. That it's not all on me. Like, it's not all on me. God will provide. I need to continue to trust him and follow him. And if I stay focused on that, and if I can stay in that, Satan's going to have nothing to tempt me with like that. Because there's nothing else extra that I want or that desire that I'm searching for. And he's going to be able to be like, hey, worship me and you can have it. I already have what I want. I have God. What can you offer, Satan? Nothing. Now, I know you're thinking, Efren, what in the world? We were supposed to be talking about Daniel. I bring all this up because of the next verses. Daniel chapter 11, verse 30. So a little rerun. For ships of Canaan will come against him, therefore he will be disheartened and will return and become enraged at the holy covenant and take action. So he will come back and show regard for those who forsake the holy covenant. Forces from him will arise, desecrate the sanctuary fortress, and do away with the regular sacrifice. And they will set up the abomination of desolation. And by smooth words he will turn to godlessness those who act wickedly toward the covenant. See, this king will hate the covenant, right? He'll hate the people of God. He will hate their worship of God. He will hate the rituals, the practices, the morality, everything that honors God. He hates all of it. And so this king, his plan is to rip the temple apart. He will stop the sacrifices and set up this abomination of desolation, which this is, when this happened, this is all part like in the Maccabees kind of stuff. But what happens is they set up this meteorite that represents their god, Baal Shaman, which is like the Syrian version of Zeus. Like that's what he does. They're going to take that and put that on the burnt offering that is meant only for the worship of God. So he's going to put that on there so the people of God can't even worship him. He's going to stop all that, and he's going to make it to where people God, like they can't go to the temple, they can't worship. He's going to put everything he can in the way of the people of God so they have nothing. So not only will they have nothing in life, their life is going to be hard, man. They can't even run to God to worship, to pray for anything. This is what he is going to be doing, and he's going to try to hinder them from God as much as he can. And then, to all those who hate the Holy Covenant, those who are against God, those who act wickedly, he's going to give them so many nice things. He will speak nicely to them, treat them with the utmost respect. They're going to get all the things that they want. But to the people of God, he will take from them, leave them devastated, strip them down to almost nothing, and won't even let them worship God. Things are going to get bad. This is what Daniel is seeing. Things are going to get really bad. And when things get bad like this, and we see these people who are wicked and who are horrible, and they're doing things against God on purpose, and they keep getting all these nice things that we look at and we say, man, like, why do they get that? Why can't I get that? Because they're getting all the comforts and the status and the fame, like everything this world has off. They're getting all that. And we're going to be like, man, like what? Why do they get that? God, I'm trying to serve. Like, why do they? And this is where Satan can come in and be like, oh, you want that? I got you. All you got to do is bow down and worship me. But listen to more of this. Second part of 32. But the people who know their God will display strength and take action. Those who have insight among the people will give understanding to the many. Yet they will fall by the sword and by flame and by captivity and by plunder for many days. Now when they fall, they will be granted a little help, and many will join them in hypocrisy. Some of those who have insight will fall in order to refine, purge, and make them pure until the end time, because it is still to come at the appointed time. I love how the second part of 32 starts. Those who know God will display strength and take action. And this again, this is referring to the Maccabees. They took action against this king. They took action and fought back and got the temple back. But the thing is, these people of God, they know him. They know God. Like we see in all this stuff about how evil is taking action. Well, guess what? Those who know God will also take action. Again, this isn't this like the kind of know where it's, hey, yeah, I know God. I know Jesus. No, this is the deep knowing of God. Those who know God because they walk with him every single day. They see God's handiwork. They have seen God's power over creation. They have seen him provide. They have seen him remove obstacles out of the way. They have seen his spirit move amongst his people. And these are the people of unwavering faith because they know God. They truly know him. And because they know him, that's why they display strength, because they know where their strength comes from. Not from within themselves, but from God. And since they know where it comes from, this is why they're ready. They're ready to move, to take action against the evil forces of this world. Because they take offense when these evil forces attempt to stop the people of God, to blaspheme God, and to stop them from trying to worship God with all that they have. Man, they take offense to that. And they're like, no, we are going to take action against this. Again, like I said earlier, there's no passivity in this. When we're talking about fighting against evil forces, man, know your God, know where your strength comes from, and take action. And it even says people will fall by the sword. They'll fall by fire, by plunder, captivity. But they're not going to stop, even though they're seeing like, oh, the other side, man, they're taking our different chess pieces. They're moving. They still don't stop giving insight. They still don't stop talking about God. In our case, they don't stop spreading the gospel. They don't stop the mission of God. They just keep going. And what's funny, even the messenger, I felt like this gets real, right? Like it's real, and just to let the people know what's happening when he says they will be granted a little help and many will join in hypocrisy. What this means is there are going to be people that see the people of God starting to move forward, starting to succeed. They're saying, oh, this might be a good historical event. And what they'll do is they'll say, hey, I want my name to be alongside of these people. So there are going to be these fake friends, these fake allies that are just trying to ride the wave of success in history. But these people are just like, whatever, all the help we can get, right? Like we're moving forward. And so these fake friends will show up, but it doesn't stop the people of God. They just keep their strength. They keep taking action. They keep on the mission, even though evil is against them. Fake friends will show up, they'll disappear. But people who know God, who truly know Him, man, they're the ones that will continue. And even if they fall, even if they mess up, even if they screw up in any kind of way, they just continue to move forward because this is how they are refined, they are purged, and they seek to be made pure. And the reason why they keep pushing forward, because that last point that it says there, the end time is still to come at the appointed time. They know the end is coming. They know that God is going to be victorious at the very end. So because they know that God is over here playing chess, all these evil forces are playing checkers, guess what? We can still move forward. I know God. I know what He can do. The end is still coming, and since the end is coming, I will continue to push forward towards that end because I know God is going to win. So even though we see people who reject God, act wickedly, spread evil, even though they prosper here on earth, we can't be envious. We can't look at that and be like, man, why can't I have it? Man, that's how we give Satan an opportunity to come in and tempt us with the things of this world in order to get us to switch alliances in those wars. And I say this as someone just seeing this over and over again with people where they give up their faith. I don't mean give up going to church. I mean give up their faith. Because they have said things like, it's just so much easier to not be a Christian. Or another one that I heard, this individual they just said, listen, I can just make so much more money if I don't worry about this God stuff. And I could sit here and spend another 10 minutes giving you things like that, but because people have said, yeah, I'll bow down and worship Satan. I will do that because I want this world. This is why Jesus says friendship with the world is being an enemy against God. This is why Jesus says, if you look to gain, what does it profit a man to gain the world if he loses his soul? Because this is how Satan is going to continue to tempt us. While Satan and his demons and the people in this world, like they're going to be continuing to do this, and the enemy is going to move, and it's going to seem like the enemy is winning, but remember, God is 20 moves ahead. Just stay in step with God, and we'll be 20 moves ahead. Let God strengthen us. Let Him take action in this war. We take action with Him. If we're looking to be unwavering in our faith and firm in our faith, all we have to do is answer the question we asked earlier and really wrestle with it and really think about it, pray about it. If we need a mentor or someone to talk to about it, do everything we can. And this is a question I want to leave us with, because if we are going to make sure that we don't give Satan a foothold in our life, this is a question we have to wrestle with. What do we really want? What do you really want?